So what is the state of the Naira at the moment, given the sudden appreciation at the BDC parallel market window of the Forex market? The local unit has fallen to, or rather, has appreciated to as high as 215, 216 to the greenback. Just a few weeks ago, we had that figure at 245. But so what happened within a space of 2 weeks to the Naira? Let's get to hear from the horse's mouth, as we are being joined in the studio by the special advisor to the central bank governor in charge of communications. He is Mr. Ugochukwu Okorafo. Thank you, Mr. Okorafo, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And to my far left, we have the director in charge of reserve management, also at the central bank, Mr. Lamido Yuguda. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having us.
I'm going to start with Mr. Okorafo. Also to let you know that in the course of this conversation, we will be speaking with a BDC operator and to ask him what he thinks about the development in the market. He is Harrison Owo. We're expecting to have him join us on this conversation, telling us what his consumers are telling him, what has been his experience out there in the markets. Mr. Okorafo, the banks have said that you directed them not to take, based on the report that we get, not to take dollar deposits or any other foreign currency deposit. What's your view on this?
Well, let me say that we didn't say don't take, but we fully support what is going on. Now, what is it that is going on? Let's pull back slightly and look at the word domiciliary. The word domiciliary account, what does it really mean? Because it's important for us to understand how we got to where we are today. Domiciliary account is an account you're supposed to have for inflows, earnings that come from abroad, transfers that come from abroad, or if you have currency, little currency that is generated, let's say tourists coming and all that, you have that domiciliary account. It is domiciled in the country. So it's actually not a day-to-day account. Now, it's not an account for currency substitution. It's not an account where you go and buy Naira, buy dollar, take Naira, buy dollar, and fund. No, that's not the whole essence of having a domiciliary account. You have your regular account. That's one. Secondly, you can't have cash all over the place. When Nigeria is cited as one of the worst, one of the 10 most exposed countries in terms of cash movement, at a time when, one, you're having money laundering, two, you're having terrorism, and this cash is something that can be misused. If you know you have cash and it is from a legitimate source, nobody is stopping you. So what we're saying is, specifically, let people use the legitimate means of moving their money. We don't want currency substitution. We don't want a situation in which people then begin to speculate on the value of the Naira using dollar. That is where I think Nigerians need to look at. So we like what is happening in the sense that finally people are beginning to see what central bank meant by there is speculative attack on the Naira. As you can see, people who have no need keeping dollar are keeping dollar and using it to attack the currency. And we are all suffering for it. So right now, that's cost of speculation, the price or the margin of speculation that that was on the Naira is coming down. And we are beginning to understand exactly what the problem has been with our currency.
Now, you made some points, and part of what you said was that it should be an account funded from abroad through transactions, maybe you're into a business and all that. What about those individuals who get paid in foreign currencies in the country? There's some individuals that run domiciliary accounts. They may not be involved in any form of businesses at all. They may not have someone to send in money to them from abroad. How would you want them to handle the situation?
Well, they qualify. Like I said, that's why you need domiciliary accounts. If, for instance, a tourist comes in here, he has to spend more, the foreign currency. You go to a hotel, you go to some place, and you generate income that's coming from, say, that investor who has visited Nigeria and has some cash or has some transfer, a card, then you can take all that and put in your domiciliary account. But it is not an account where you go and buy dollar using naira and then you fund it when you don't even have any need for it. That is the difference. And for us, we believe that right now, legitimate demand is showing up. And that legitimate demand we are going to meet.
Okay, let me come to Mr. Yuguda. You are in charge of reserve management, and part of what you do is you're keeping an eyes on our foreign reserves out there, working with the banks, the foreign banks that manage our reserves and all that. What does all of this say to you? How do you come into the situation in terms of the fact that our foreign reserves is being used to back up the naira in terms of the value?
Yes.
How has it been for your department in this respect?
It has actually been quite, difficult in the last few months, in the sense that we have an increased liquidity requirement, okay, because we need liquid reserves to be able to, supply the Nigerian market. Okay, so that means we have to reduce what we invest, on a medium to long-term basis, so that we can have liquidity to actually supply our Nigerian market. But we are also discussing, this situation with our colleagues, who actually transact in the Nigerian foreign exchange market, and we are seeing that there is a lot of speculation in the demand that we see. And that speculation is really expressed in the form of increasing domiciliary account balances. In the last few months, domiciliary accounts have actually grown in aggregate, across the banks. And most of this is not really through wire transfer, which is really, a very good way to grow the domiciliary account, but through the cash that we sell essentially to the Bureau de Change. And this cash is essentially sold to BDCs so that they can service our citizens who need to travel, for tourism, for probably, small medical bills and some, school expenses. But what we are seeing is that a lot of people are buying large amounts of cash from that window and depositing that cash into domiciliary accounts, with commercial banks. So the result is that commercial banks now have piles of dollar cash sitting in their vaults. And that cash, as long as it's in the vaults of a commercial bank, is really not in the intermediation, process. You cannot get it wired, to an account, outside. You cannot do, anything with it. So it's really a big cost to the bank, and I guess to also the depositors. The only reason depositors were keeping this cash is just the expectation that the naira will continue to depreciate.
Now, the central bank rate. The last figure we got yesterday says that the rate, the exchange rate between the naira and the dollar is 197 to the greenback. And how would you compare this disparity when you look at the exchange rate, the rate at which you're giving the BDCs, and how much the BDCs are selling to the end users, Mr. Ugu Korafo?
Well, in terms of this disparity, we don't expect much disparity, really. If anything like that happens, we would like people to report. There is a small commission they need to charge because there's a trickle-down effect. But then, let me look at rates generally. When there is, like if you take the CBN monetary policy rate, which is supposed to be the indicative rate that drives every other rate, is the cost of capital. And then you see people lending at a much higher rate. That gap, what you have in there includes the cost of money, the price of money. If you get money from somebody and you lend it, there must be some profit. That income. There you include the costs of uncertainty, the costs of not having information,
Okay.
of not having, of using a generator, of hiring policemen to guard the money. Those are all the things that you pile up. So once that disparity shrinks, then you find out that if you have efficient markets, the margin will be very thin.
Okay.
But the more inefficient a market is, the higher it is.
All right.
And in our own case, the more we do not rely on ourselves and we are looking for things from outside, the more import-oriented we are, the more dependent we are on these vagaries. And those things pile up and help increase that margin.
All right.
It's all part of what we're trying to do, to pull everybody back and say, hey, let's pull ourselves up by our shoestrings and be a country that really relies on its own capacity. We consume locally made goods. We create employment for our people, and we make sure that Nigeria truly achieves that potential